Hey everybody, thanks for the meeting time this morning. I just want to take these few minutes here to review all the changes that we've done with the system with this manual QA review, analysis section, and new items on the dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and start here on the analysis side because that's where I've been spending the majority of my time lately. And so just to note, it's the analysis section we've added here on the left-hand dash. And only users who have the privilege assigned to them for analysis will see it. Any other user type will not, or user will not even know it's here, so they won't know to click on something. So if you want to access the analysis section, click here. And you can see we list all the reporting years that have been imported so far, or created in the system, I should say. We list out the number of buildings that have been imported, or reported, I'm sorry, for the year. Total square footage. We have median site EUI, weather normalized, average year built, average building age. Again, if you want these or not, let me know and we can change these columns out. The last time a record was imported for that reporting year, and whether the status of that year is open or closed per the analysis or per the analyst. We've also added a download button at the top of this page to give you all years, all data. So this would, you can come back and forth through the years here and get all the data for all the years reported. And that's there. Click on the select button to open a year. And then we'll display the use type for those years. So we've got reporting year 2017 listed at the top. And then we list all the use types that reported for this year. Next column over after use type is the number of buildings that did report for that use type, their total square foot, median weather normalized site EUI, total water use, median water use intensity, emissions, and intensity for emissions. Here we have the last imported date for the data for this use type, as well as the closed date if the status was closed. So if this use type has been closed out for analysis, the system will record and display the date that the date that this use type was closed out. So here you can see if, at a quick glance at least, if data had been imported after a close. So maybe an analyst wants to come back in here, reopen the use type and do some more analysis. So let's go ahead and open up, let's look at hotels here real quick. So we select that. And we've got a hotel reporting year for 2017. We have the status at the top. That can be reopened or closed at any time. Simply save. We break down the some total values and some median values across the top here. So we have the total number of buildings reported, total square footage, water use, the number of buildings that were used in the weather normalized site calculations, and then the median weather site normalized EUI, water use, emissions intensity, and Energy Star score for these groups. We've got the charts here next. So we figure the charts will compile as aggregate as they go year to year. So regardless of the year, you'll see all the years for this use type and see how they're doing. We have a download button here as well. So we have a download on all three levels. So you can get all years, all data, 1 year at a time, or just per use type. So this will download all the EPA data for only those records that are counted as reported. Any of the dropped buildings will be listed down here in the grayed out section, and you can still click on the View Data button. So we can still get to see the access, or still get to access the data for those buildings that were dropped. But then they're not listed, they're not included in the calculations above here. So these, what we have, 18? I think what 18 buildings are all listed right here, and an analyst can come through and mark them as outliers or not. So if you find some that are outliers and need to be marked, you can do that. I don't think the demo site's doing it right now, but when you check a building off, we'll take it out of the totals and the calculations above as well. So those will be refreshed. Oddly enough, median calculations take a computer a little longer than average. So that's interesting. Let's see. Before I go to view data, which we have most of the new layout in here, this report came to my mind. I don't know. It brought some questions up that I want to address in the manual review section and QA issues. You can see here they reported 11 million kBTU of steam use. And they've got it down here. This one was dropped, and it may have been an updated report, which we're not going to show updates post updates, but it may have been a duplicate too. Down here, they were showing 11 billion units of kBTU of steam. So somebody updated this at one point and corrected it. And I think that could be a good use type for the QA, manual QA, and clearing things. So I'll come back to that in a second. So we can open the data here, and now we've got it laid out, hopefully in an organized way for everything. We put all the dates together for period ending dates, when the record was last modified, generation date and release date are at the top. And we've got some address information. Talk about the property name, ID from EPA, and the St. Louis building ID. Address, city, state, who the portfolio manager account holder is, any of the building characteristics, and let us know if any of these need to move around. I'm going to scroll slowly so you can make note of what's going on here. You can see it's 6 columns, basically, 6 columns wide. We didn't use them all the time. My suggestion was to break site and source out since there were just 2, but we can merge this together if you think it's better, and we can save a couple rows of length if we want to put these together here. But I thought it might be easier to see all the site EUI numbers on one side versus the source EUIs. Energy Star score. We've got electricity, fuel, and natural gas use together here. So we've got all the electrical use, fuel oil, and natural gas. Energy current date baseline. Some of these things look like they belonged here. So please let us know if some of these need to move. We put green power next. Then we have some emissions numbers. And then the water. And we're not quite done yet, but we'll put the rest of these fields here in the wastewater, cost, and the alerts and flags. I was basically followed Claire's hierarchy of the groups. So this is how it looks. Whenever you go to look at the EPA data, this will be the page that you'll look at. So hopefully people will get used to where certain information is. And that's the analysis section. Just want to come back here to the dropped area. This will be records that were dropped for QA reasons, or if they had QA flags, they didn't respond to get them fixed. We will not show those reports that were marked as voluntary. The thinking was that you're going to be put in the voluntary group if you're under 50,000 square feet or if you're out of the St. Louis area, the city of St. Louis. So we figured it probably wouldn't matter to show those here. We're just showing those records that will have been flagged for QA issues and did not get those corrected in time to be counted as reported. So these will be the dropped. So another thing here, Claire and Rajiv, something to think about. We were thinking of putting a modal pop-up here that would display all the dropped records and give you some quick glance at why they were dropped. Since we have all the numbers here, you can see, we can still go in and see these. But if it makes sense, we'll also give you the dropped report here for the use type. So that's the analysis section. We do have the stepwise report, which we will modify to include username and reason, but this is kind of where the drop report has been. And you can modify this for, you can take a look at this for each year here. So we've got building IDs, let's see, year reported is where we had that. So I filtered for 2017, and if it was ignored or system removed were reasons. So we can modify this here to include the username and reason. Or we'll modify that to include username and reason. Now let's go to the dashboard real quick. So here we go. Here we've got the total buildings, which has been changed to covered addresses. So Rajiv, when you're entering addresses in the records or new records in the system and assigning them a year that they begin, this year, or so like 2020, those 5 new buildings will show up in the covered addresses group. Address lookups still span all years right now. Let me know if that needs to change. We were torn. The exempts, Rajiv, we need to get with you and kind of make sure we clean out the ones that were early on, or maybe figure out when you want to let them expire so that we know when they apply through, because we really want to tie this down to a year. So everything on the dash will be tied to a year. So, total buildings or covered addresses, exempt addresses will give us required reporters. So we'll have a definite number of the base minus equals. And then we've still got the groups here. Now we've rearranged them a little bit. So we start off with a grand total of what we're expecting for the year. And then as things come in, we'll stop them here at these two places before we process them. So not matching is any report that comes in without a St. Louis building ID. So that's number one. If they come in with a building ID that doesn't match or no building ID at all, they'll stop here to get fixed. If they come in here and they're stopped for duplicates, this is for reports that have the same St. Louis building ID but have a different EPA ID, property ID, I should say specifically. So let me know. This is the, let's see, the foundation we're working on is that these records here, like for instance, this is an interesting one, this P quadruple 097 for 108 Madison Street. They also sent one in for 2022 North 2nd Street, same person, but the issue was it was two different property IDs. So it appeared that they reported two different buildings with the same St. Louis building ID or St. Louis ID. So that's why we're calling it a duplicate here. And let's see. So that's it there for that group. That hasn't changed. There was a change in the new group, new report group here. So we've added a column for type, and we'll show you if this is a new report, first time for the year, or if it's an updated report. So the thought here was to alert the users to let them know if somebody's replying to fix a QA/QC issue that was flagged and communicated to them previously. So they'll still come through. You can look at it and then process it. It will be processed for QA issues just like everything else. And if somebody is replying to fix a QA/QC issue that was previously flagged, it will show up here in the manual review area, even if it doesn't have manual QA issues marked for manual review. So that we thought that might be one nice thing to show repeat offenders here, so to speak. So we'll have the type here if it's a new column or a repeater. And then we list these guys out here. We show you the manual count and the automated issue count. Chances are somebody's going to have more than one issue. And if they do, they'll all be listed here. We figured that if a report comes through and only has QA issues that are marked for automatic review by the system, they'll just move directly to the pending resolution group and get the triggered event letter that lists out their automated QA issues. But if they have both, or if they have just manual issues, they'll land here in the manual review area so somebody can look at them all. So we'll just take St. Patrick's Center, for example. You can click on View Issues. What we've got here, we've got a little bit to fill in here yet, but we've got the QA rule name. We're going to list out here the description of the rule so the user knows what they're doing here, as well as in the comments box, we'll list the friendly description. So, or the friendly solution, I'm sorry. The friendly solution will be listed here so you can then modify or amend it, append it, however you want to do. You can also drag it down here in the textured corner and expand the row to see all the text you check in. And this is kind of where I was talking about the 11 million versus 11 billion steam units. If you wanted to, you can easily set up some QA rules that could be flagged for manual review that could compare usage from one year to the next. So you could compare previous reports or the previous year's reports to the current year, for instance, steam. And Claire would be a good guide on this to decide, hey, how much, what percentage is it 1.2 or 1.3? What's the cutoff? That would say you've entered a number that's quite higher than last year's, and it could be a typo, basically, right? It's nothing that precludes them from being a reporter because they're reporting. The numbers could be legit. And that's why we came up with this clear flag right here. So maybe some of these issues that are flags that you create could be things that you can clear here that will not preclude them from being a reporter, meaning that they'll end up in the analysis section, but you can communicate to them more specifically to help them figure out what's wrong. I hope this makes sense. So once you go through here, we can save it, and once a user touches these records, they'll be moved from the manual review area to the pending resolution group. So you can also mark a reporter as a voluntary reporter if they happen to sneak through, which they shouldn't, but you never know. So we put it here, and the view data will bring us back to that EPA data sheet as well. If you click on the rule, let's see, I think no other normalized, it'll highlight the fields. So at least give you a sense of this is where I want to go take a peek and see. So there's that. If we click save or click back, so I'll head back to the dash. Sorry, it's getting long probably. Okay, so we've got just a recap real quick here. These are required reporters. Everybody you're expecting this year, not matching, no ID is going to show here first. Anybody that's a duplicate is going to come in here second. Please remember, we want to check that property ID from the EPA. Let me know if that's legit thing to compare. Once they're cleared here, we go to new. Once new is processed by the user, anybody with manual or automatic items stops here. Anybody with only automatic QA issues stops right here at pending resolution. And we show any issue count right there. So that's kind of bumped up a little bit. We can view the EPA, take us to that record again, and we're waiting for them to come back. Now, you can still go down here and communicate with this group, say, hey, we're waiting for your resolutions, what's going on, kind of keep prompting them. And then anybody that was marked as a voluntary reporter will be put down here in the new voluntary group. So we've got some of these down here. Granted, this is a demo site. We just moved some people down here. And so they're kind of in the dead end, marked as voluntary. They can take them out of here. We're going to have a move from voluntary flag put on these guys too. So if somebody does accidentally move them here, you can get them out. But they're going to go back to the place they were last or just previously. So that's where they're going to head. And then you can put them get them to the new report group and then process them for QA issues and send correspondence. Let's see. So we're here at pending resolutions. We're waiting for response to come back from owners. Once owners do resolve, they'll be here. If anybody clears a complete report, they should be issued or shown here. Let's see. Extensions, if they're active, they're rolling here. If they're expired, they're showed here. And once they comply for denied, they're shown here. And again, the bottom line, as it all shakes out, we'll get the total number of reported and not compliant at the bottom here, and any voluntary reports listed here, as well as has Energy Star score. So we've got the charts and graphs here. Rajiv, we entered the city-owned year 16. You can find them here. The graphs don't work for them right now, but you'll be able to pick them here or from the address group for city-owned. So right here, you can filter here the 16 properties for the city right now. This is all on the demo site. Let's see, we don't have the template in here yet, but it's coming, and the preview, so that'll all be in letters. And but I guess the big question is to let me know how the columns look in the analysis section, and please let me know about the property ID field in the EPA report, if that's something that seems to indicate it's somebody else for the same building, that they must have a different record in EPA Portfolio Manager. So thank you guys. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for your patience. Sorry this is long. Talk to you later. Bye.